Welcome to the Global Peace Film Festival Lives Online Conversation, the 2023 Festival Edition. Please join me, Kelly Devine, the Festival Artistic Director, and Nina Strike, the Festival Founder and Festival Director, as we welcome Lisa Mills to discuss her film, Marching Forward. Lisa, so glad to have you with us.
Thank you so much for having me. Hi, everybody.
Hi, Lisa. It is great to have you with us. And let's start out with telling us a little bit about Marching Forward.
Well, this is a feature-length documentary film that was produced with honor students at the University of Central Florida over a couple of years, beginning in summer of 2016. And it documents a moment in time in Orlando history when the civil rights movement was coming to fruition, and young people, what all of that meant to them, and the two teachers that led them to come to an understanding through music. And it's really about two different sides of the track, if you will, literally, in Orlando in the early 1960s. You had a historically Black African-American high school, and then you had a brand new white high school that was built in the suburbs. And the two band directors at those two schools were friends, and were able to, as a result, bring the students and the Orlando community together through their efforts to take both bands to the World's Fair in 1964.
Well, that's a marvelous little detail that friendship can overcome such thorny social problems. Can you tell us a little bit about your process? How did you come to know about this moment in history and make the film?
So the class that made the film is co-taught by me, a film professor at UCF, and Dr. Robert Casanello, an American history professor at UCF. And Dr. Casanello and I co-teach the class, and Dr. Casanello brought the idea to the class, told the students and me all about it. We loved the idea of telling this story. And as a matter of fact, when we first heard about the story, the only thing we knew was that the Black high school, Jones High, had gone to the World's Fair in the summer of '64, which was a remarkable summer. It was the summer that the Civil Rights Act was passed. It was right after Dr. Martin Luther King was arrested in St. Augustine. So we knew all about that. What we did not know about, and the students learned about this through their research, was the white band director, Del Kiefner, who was running the band program at Edgewater High School, a brand new white high school out in the suburbs. And what we learned through our research was how those two band directors actually worked together to make the trips happen for both of the bands in the Orlando area.
Well, it's a marvelous bit of history, and so this is a very collaborative project. Certainly, certainly any given film is a collaborative product, but this seems very unique in the way that you are bringing the students in, and it's almost a class project. I think audience members might be interested to know a little bit more about this as a teaching tool, because it must be a really enriching experience for the students.
Yes, more and more universities are using documentary filmmaking as a tool for students to learn public history, which is what we did. But documentary is also being used to get students out into the community, to collaborate with the community, to give them the opportunity to tell stories, so that students become more like guides or helpers out in particular communities, gathering oral histories in visual ways, collecting photographs, and so forth. So this has been a trend that we've seen in the US really for about 10 years. And Dr. Casanello and I have been working together on these films since 2008. And we've made a number of short films. And then with Marching Forward, there was so much rich material that Dr. Casanello and I and the students decided to take a big leap and make a feature-length documentary. It's kind of crazy looking back that we decided to do that, to make a feature-length film with a set of 15 students. And it didn't get finished during the one semester, I can tell you that. But we did have students who hung on to the project for about another year as we completed it. They were very, very dedicated. And so ultimately, we gave the title of student director to Oz Lewis, one of the history. He wasn't a film student, he was a history student, and very, very interested in African-American history. So he stuck with the project for so long and was so dedicated that we gave him the title of student director. And I have news about Oz. Since then, he's gone on and gotten his master's degree in history at UCF. So he's a success story.
Well, you anticipated my next question because I was going to ask about Oz. That's fantastic. It certainly, this kind of teaching model, I would have welcomed this when I was in school, but I'm glad to see that. Yes, I'm glad to see that you are a big part of this, because so many of your films have come out of this process that we've shared, over the years of the festival. So we really appreciate knowing that story behind the stories. So that's really nice. And one of the reasons we're also really attracted to your work is the mission of the festival. Our festival is geared towards bringing people together, having conversations about models and ways of frameworks of looking at the world in order to make the world a more peaceful, more just place, and how we can all work together on achieving that. And so if you could speak a bit about, what you hope people will get out of, watching a film like Marching Forward.
Yeah, so when you're dealing with history, it's really complicated. I think there are efforts underway right now to simplify and homogenize what really happened, particularly in a complex era like the civil rights era. And so I think that our students, in doing the research and conducting, there were probably about 25 interviews that we shot over the course of 2 years. And in doing that, the students learned that the way that you bring a community together is by just persevering and making gains in small ways. And not all civil rights heroes are the big heroes like we know about Dr. Martin Luther King. Certainly, he's at the top and such an inspiration to all of us. But this film is really about 2 teachers. They were just high school teachers, and they didn't have to take this on, but they felt compelled to do so, for the sake of their students, and then ultimately for even more. Chief Wilson in the documentary says that being able to bring both a white high school band and a Black high school band up to the New York World's Fair to represent Orlando was like a coming out party for the community of Orlando. They were able to get the whole community behind this effort. And it's really remarkable that for that time in 1963-64, the local government, that is to say the city commission, the county commission, and then the media, the local media as well, came in behind all of this and contributed equally to the white school and the Black school. I think that's really one of the most remarkable things we discovered in our research, is that equal amounts of funding were given to the white school and the Black school in the early 60s. We just really couldn't believe it. We had to document that several times before we really were sure that we had that right. So it's a story about the people, the individuals, but it's also a story about the community. And it's also a story about just the fun of it. You had these 2 groups of high school kids that were able to travel on a train up to Washington, D.C. and stop off at the Capitol, and then from there continue on to New York. And oh my gosh, to be a Black high school student from the South and the opportunity to go to New York where everything is different. I remember the first time I went to New York City, everything changed. It just changed my perspective on all of it. And so those students have all talked to us about how it inspired them throughout their lives. Not necessarily that they became professional musicians, but that they knew that there was a different world out there and that they could achieve and they could go out and make a difference.
That's such a fantastic story. Thank you so much for sharing that. So tell us what people can do to support not just this film, but your other films. And we are actually going to be showing 2 of your short films that are done the same way that you've described earlier in this conversation on our Free for All Shorts program that'll be available from September 25th to October 1st on through our website, and they're also on your website. And the films are Connections and also The Committee. And The Committee was mentioned by Rachel Maddow on her podcast Deja News. So if people are interested, they should go search that out and hear some more behind the scenes about of the history of the film The Committee, that will also be shown in the Global Peace Film Festival virtual festival Free for All Shorts program. So if you can talk a little bit about what people can do to support your work, to support this film, and also about your other work, what's next for you?
Well, I have to begin by thanking you, Nina and Kelly, and the Global Peace Film Festival for all the support that you've given over the years for films, our films, but also just all independent filmmakers, because none of us could get our films in front of an audience without film festivals like this that care about filmmakers and program their work. So a big thank you to you for your help over all of the years. We'll talk about The Committee first. You programmed it in your festival, and that was a film that Dr. Casanello and I also made with honor students at UCF. And that was a little film that Dr. Casanello brought the idea to me. It was about the persecution of LGBTQ students and professors at Florida's public universities back in the 50s and 60s. There are horrifying stories in the film about students being interrogated for 17 hours down in the basement of an administration building. Another gay student was harassed. The police came to his dorm room and then took him to the administration building to begin interrogating him. And one of those interrogators we were able to connect with again, and we were able to bring at the end of the film the student he had interrogated together with the member of the police department. And they had kind of a reunion, and they came to respect and know each other. And it's just a remarkable scene at the end of the film where they're talking to each other about how much progress was made. But as we know now in Florida and across the nation, we're falling back, and some of the progress that was made for gay rights is slipping back, and progress for trans rights is slipping back. And so if you had asked Dr. Casanello and me how relevant this film would be in 2023, we would have had no idea that here we go again, with the rights of these citizens, being stepped upon by really misguided governmental policies. It's really quite disturbing for us to see how relevant this film is again, and the people that were kind enough and brave enough to tell us their stories, some of them aren't around anymore, some of them are. You had asked me about what's next. I want to let the audience know that if you come and see the committee about Florida's persecution of LGBTQ students and professors, we are now working on a follow-up film to the committee that we're calling The Apology, because there are members of the Florida legislature that have drafted a resolution whereby the lawmakers can apologize to the victims of the Johns Committee purge and persecution, but they've not been able to get the resolution passed. So when they are able to get that resolution passed, and we're confident they will eventually, we will be there with our cameras. And some of the people that are in the committee will be there in the gallery to see this apology pass. And we will then be able to complete the follow-up film that we've done on the committee. So Kelly, that's one of the films. We have a lot of that material already in the can, and we're just waiting for the moment when the Florida legislature can do what's right and apologize to the people that were persecuted just for being themselves, you know, back in the 50s and 60s.
Is
So
there
then-
something,
Yeah.
is there something people watching this or watching the film can do to sort of, can they write to legislators? What can people watching this and watching the film do to help spur that moment when that apology can be made?
You're absolutely right, Nina. People can write to their state representatives and their state senators, write to the governor's office too, and demand that the state of Florida apologize to the victims of the Johns Committee that went after gay students and gay professors and, you know, jailed them and ruined their lives. They can put that at the beginning of their email, and then they can follow up by talking about, what are you doing now to support the rights of gay citizens? What are you doing now to support the rights of trans citizens and trans students? You can make your view of these misguided pieces of legislation known in your email to these people, and let them know what Floridians really want, which is to accept all Floridians for who they are and to support them and love them, not persecute them, you know, not take away their rights, not make their lives more difficult. Yes, write your lawmakers, let them know how you feel.
Well said, and thank you for that, because we're always looking for that opportunity to motivate people to take action. So thank you, Lisa, for that. That's a
Sure.
great way to end this. And also, I want to make sure that everybody watching goes to, for more information, to www.lisamillsfilms.com to find out about all of the incredible projects that she's been a part of. And again, join us at the festival. We will have in-person programming beginning September 19th, running through the 23rd, and then starting the 25th, running through October the 1st. We will have 2 online programs, one through the Eventive platform and one that is available on our website, and that will be where you can see the committee and connections. So thank you again, and join us next time for another Global Peace Film Festival Lives Online conversation.